Good evening, everyone. Hello, this is Tammy from Capital City RIA. And you see over here to the left and to the right, whichever way your screen is, the one and only, the renowned Mr. Lou Brown. And I am so excited to have you here with us this evening. I know we have an outrageous conversation that is live. So if you could take a moment and in your chat box, just reach out, say hi, let us know that you are there, and any questions that you have during the evening, please do not hesitate to make sure that in the chat box you write any questions that you have. It is a true special evening to be blessed and have Mr. Lou Brown here with us. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, my name is Tammy Phelps. My husband Jim and I are the founders of Capital City RIA in the local DC, Northern Virginia, and Maryland area. And we would like to welcome you from the bottom of my heart. And our Tuesdays with Tammy webinar is something that has just absolutely exploded in the last 6 months. It gives us an opportunity to connect as a community and investors. We know what the DC Beltway is like, and so it's really exciting to have you here. And we're going to share about 60 minutes, 90 minutes with Q&A with Lou. And I really didn't want this to be our typical presentation. This is actually just a live interview with me interviewing Lou. Lou is going to be present with us in the DC area at our Capital City RIA main event, and that is actually going to be on Saturday, September the 30th, for a full-day workshop. I'll go over that a little bit more. Just want to make sure you get your calendars marked right now. And again, that is Saturday, September the 30th. That is going to be at the Residence Inn in Bethesda, Maryland. So a very central location for everyone. Great space. Parking is free. It's right off of the metro. And the best part is there is no cost to attend. So please make sure you mark your calendars. It is going to be an outrageous event. Yeah, baby. And
yeah, baby.
With lots of fun and lots of content and lots of education. So it is really just an honor and a gift and rare to be able to get the legendary Mr. Lou Brown here in the DC area, and to have him here at Capital City RIA just excites me so much. So I'd like to just give him a warm Capital City RIA welcome and share with you a little bit about what others have shared about Lou, just to kind of set the interview here. And you know, as I learned more and more about Lou, it just is amazing, Lou, to learn that you have students not only in the United States and all 50 states that have long regarded you and your training systems and your forums that have all been created by you as the best in the industry. And I will first that, second that, third that, and fourth that, because I still use today the standard purchase real estate agreement that I know you created, and I am so honored to be able to still use that great document along with a lot of other documents. And I know several of you that are getting on the call with us this evening may have had an opportunity to talk to Lou or meet Lou in the past. Hey Tyrone, hey Bruce, hey Valerie. So good to see you guys all here tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. And Lou also has students in Canada, 10 foreign countries, as far away as Australia and New Zealand. He has been quoted as an expert by many publications and authors. Lou draws from a wide and varied background as a real estate investor, having been buying properties since 1977. Wow. You look like you're only 32 years old, Lou. I don't know how you could be doing property since 1976.
I love you, Tammy. You're awesome.
He has invested in single-family homes, apartments, hotels. He's developed subdivisions. He's built and renovated homes and apartments. His knowledge is so vast. It is so deep. And it is so, so exciting. And I assure you, it is going to be an awesome, awesome interview this evening. Each of all of these experiences has given him a proving ground for the most cutting-edge concepts in real estate investments today. He is widely known as a creative financing genius that I can attest to with his deal structuring concepts. Being a teacher and guide at heart, he enjoys sharing his discoveries with others. He has served in the industry in many volunteer positions. He was the past president and designated lifetime member of the Georgia Real Estate Investor Association, the world's largest investment group with over 3,200 members. Wow, Lou, I didn't realize it was that big.
It's not these days, but it was back in the day when I was the president of it.
Wow, and I know
more competition now.
Yeah, and you also were the founding president of National REIA, correct?
That's correct.
Wow, and of course that serves as the umbrella to all the local investor groups. You are a dedicated, committed, and loving husband, an amazing father from what I've heard, an author, a lecturer, an inventor, an investor, a builder, a designer, and most importantly, a real estate expert. But what I would like to share is you're my very special friend, and I love you so much, and I'm so glad that you're here tonight. Thank you for making the time with us, and for all of you that are on the webinar tonight, I just want to share from the bottom of my heart. We so appreciate you being with us this evening. Unfortunately, due to Hurricane Harvey last week, we had to postpone the webinar. Lou is out of the Atlanta area, and they were without power. And so we were not able to get the interview live to you last week. So we apologize for that. We appreciate you being here with us this evening. So without any further ado, Lou, I hope that gives you the warm Capital City REIA welcome that you so deserve. And I would like to just open it up to you for a few seconds to be able to share and say whatever you'd like.
Well, thanks, Tammy. You know, I really do appreciate this opportunity to just be with you, be with your group. You know, you're an amazing person, and you've really been playing the game full out ever since I met you the first time. What was that, 10 years ago or something? It's been a long time. 15 years, baby. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Well, you know, I have really been a blessed man because I have been able to develop some things in my business that have made me a lot of money, some crazy good stuff. And what's fun is that I get to share it now. And I really love sharing it with other folks. And I love to, and I get excited about them building their businesses and taking off like a rocket and having great results and success. I just get a big kick out of that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You know, we don't have a script here, and that's right. Part of what makes this so much fun. And, you know, one of my questions to you, just off of the top of my head and from the bottom of my heart, is, with all of your years of knowledge and experience, you certainly don't need to continue to be out on the road and, you know, traveling. It's tough. And we were down in Florida 3 weeks ago together and had such an amazing time. And I would love to know, what is it that keeps you going when you don't need to be out on the road doing what it is that you do?
That's a great question. You know, to me, variety is the spice of life, and I really do enjoy teaching. I found out way back in the day, I was on the board of directors of the Georgia Real Estate Investors Association, and back then they didn't have the trainings that they've got now. So what happened was the board came to me and said, "Hey, you're successful in real estate. Why don't you give a class?" And I went, me? You want me to give a class? What do you want from me? And so sure enough, I did this half-day class, and it went over huge. And they said, hey, why don't you do that again? So I did that again, and I got better and better at it. And then it became a challenge for me to improve every time that I teach. And I just love that process. And, you know, transferring the information from one side to the other is one thing, and when someone takes that information and actually applies it, that's a whole other thing. And I really light up when they've got those big fat checks that they can share with me, or better yet, big fat equities. That's really my game, is equities. I love to buy properties and create a big nest egg that we can capitalize on and be able to make cash flow off of. So that's kind of the song that I sing for everybody.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys, just a reminder, at any time during our live interview, if you have a question, please do not hesitate to type it into the chat box. I will be monitoring it, and I just would like to give a shout out to our amazing marketing director, Miss Olga Flamenco. Thank you so much, Olga, for being behind the scenes, making all of this possible. You know, we couldn't do this without you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So, Lou, I know you have shared with me how you got started in real estate, and it's so interesting learning how people got their start, why they got started in real estate, and would you mind sharing your story about, you know, why real estate, and why has it been an addiction, you know, all these years in your life? And I think it would be a great place to start.
Wow. So thank you for the opportunity. And it's just an amazing thing. When my mother came to this country as a war bride, so she came with no relatives here, no brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, cousins. It was just her and her new American trooper husband, and everything was going to be fantastic and wonderful. And she ended up finding out that he was an alcoholic and an abuser, and so she had to get rid of him. And as I jokingly say, then she met my father, her second mistake. So they ended up breaking up when I was about 2.5, 3 years old. And it ended up just being the two of us here in this country. We had to figure everything out for ourselves. There was no safety net. There was no safety net. First of all, there was no real welfare programs back then, so there was nothing she could apply for. Not that she would have, to be honest with you. She was kind of like that kind of person. She, you know, I'm not going to take anything from anybody. I'm just going to work hard. And so it was a great gift to give that to me too, because I really realized some important things when I was young. And one of them was, and everybody can write this down too, if it is to be, it is up to me. And it was such a powerful, powerful lesson. I can tell you that I've never looked back from that. And I say that it was a gift, even though I didn't have a father and no brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles, aunts. I didn't have any of that, but I did have that gift of knowing just how much of a struggle life can be. And then the ability to actually see that you can get on the other side. And I think that's so powerful, that anybody that really takes it upon themselves to have a better life than the one they've got, the opportunity is incredible in this country. And I always love to talk to other people from other countries and that have really struggled to get to this country. And they've either immigrated legally or illegally, whatever the case may be, but they've gotten to this country. And they so appreciate this country. They so appreciate the opportunity here. And I think a lot of us take that for granted. I think we don't really recognize and realize the gift that we have being in this country. Yep. And so, you know, coming from where I came from, which was nothing, you know, no kind of resources at all, no kind of credit or ability to qualify for loans or anything like that. So my mom had a friend, and I tell this story about Aunt Mabel. And Aunt Mabel told me a story when I was 8 years old. We went over to visit her, and call them aunts, even though we weren't related at all, aunts and uncles and everybody. And went over to visit, and she told me that she had bought the duplex that she lived in. And she told me that the people on the other side were paying enough in rent to cover the mortgage. And so that meant what? She was living for free, right? And I was just like, wow. Now, wait a minute.
How old were you at the time?
8 years old.
Eight. Oh, you said that.
8 years old. And
8 years old.
I mean, very impressionable, very precocious kid, you know. I was kind of like an inquisitor. I was always asking people questions, and I was kind of, you know, I would act like an adult because I didn't know how to be a kid. So I would talk to people like I was their peer or something like that. And so I heard this story, and it really didn't, I mean, you know, you're 8 years old, you don't really understand about money, but I did understand one thing, that sometimes we were hiding out from the rent man, and a lot of times we didn't have money, and a lot of times we were eating TV dinners and canned corn and stuff like that. So I remember that. And what happened was that she bought another duplex next door, and, you know, like a year later, and people on one side were paying enough to cover the mortgage, and the other money was theirs. And they did it again and again and again. And pretty soon I got to see that they had an amazing life. They had an amazing lifestyle. They went out to eat every night at the steakhouse. They got a new car every other year. They got a brand new house several years later. And it was just like a message to me, like, okay, they're not so smart. Now, what I mean by that is they were wonderful people, but Aunt Mabel actually had a speech impediment. He don't like men. No, he don't like men. And, you know, she didn't really impress you as someone who could come into someone's house and negotiate a deal, and that she would be able to actually pull it off. And she did it over and over and over and over and over again. And Uncle George was with her all the way, but of course he was kind of like the laid back, quiet, C-type, detail-oriented guy. I loved, you know, being behind the scenes. He fixed TVs, and he just loved being behind those TVs and changing out those tubes back in the day. But she was the aggressive one. She was the one that was willing to put it all on the line. She didn't care what people thought of her. She didn't think a thing about it. And she, as a result, had an amazing life. So I got that as a mentor, and it was such a blessing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. So how old were you when you decided to take action on what you were seeing happening all around you?
Well, that was actually Aunt Mabel, too. She said, you need to buy a house. She told me at 18 years old, she says, you need to buy a house. And I'm going, wow. Now, wait a minute, Aunt Mabel. You go to banks. You qualify for loans. You have a bank account. You can buy real estate. And she says, well, I don't know anything about that, but you need to meet my friend, Realtor Sue. And sure enough, Realtor Sue comes in her big old Cadillac, and she tells me to get in her car, and then we're going to drive around, and we're going to look at properties. And I'm going, are you kidding? So, I mean, I'm in the game. What the heck? I'm 18 years old, looking at houses. Who knows? Maybe I'll buy a house. Sure enough, I put a property under contract. Now, I've lived in apartments all my life, didn't own a lawnmower, didn't own any appliances. That was it, apartment living. And,
wow.
and when people come to the event that we're going to do on the 30th, I'm actually going to show some pictures of where I used to live. But it was, not so nice apartments. And so sure enough, I actually was able to put that property under contract, and something amazing happened. I was able to take over the existing financing on the property. Now, that is a lesson for everybody here today, that there are incredible steps that you can take that actually allow you to take over the existing financing on property. And the gift that I got was that Aunt Mabel did not know that, but I was introduced to it because it's the only way I could have bought my first house at 18 years old. And so sure enough, put it under contract, took over the existing financing, paid $45 to take over that loan. That's what they used to do back in the day.
$45. We spend that for lunch.
I know it's crazy, but you even think about what do you spend just to close a single loan, just one loan? Well, you know, the closing costs, the origination fees, all the different, you know, junk fees that they put on that closing statement. Well, I got the message that I didn't have to go to banks. I didn't have to qualify for loans. And that message resonated with me. It stuck with me. And to this day, I have never gone to the bank. I have never qualified for a loan on a single family or small multifamily property.
I love it. I love it.
You think about, whoa, now wait a minute. What would my life look like if I can buy real estate unlimited? Because, of course, the banks limit the amount of properties that you could actually have, right? And we've got guidelines, and we've got all these requirements, and we've got all these things and stops, and says you can't do that. And I found out you can do that, and you can have a limitless number of properties. We've got several hundred properties now, and it's such a gift because every one of those I've either bought with existing financing, or I've bought it with owner financing where the owner carries back financing, or a combination of the two. Or I've gotten the money from people's IRAs or 401ks when it's a cash deal, and I've been able to help them too, because most people are making 0 to 1% on their money, and I can pay them market rates for their money. So they get very excited and they appreciate that, and they give me their money, and I'm able to buy some great real estate deals with that.
Wow, that is extraordinary. You know, it's very similar to my situation, Lou. I had been in my trauma accident, and so my credit was shot, and this was 20 years ago, single mom, and I didn't have financial resources to be able to buy, and I wanted it so bad, so I was forced through the adversity in my life to figure out how to do real estate creatively, and I have learned over the years that those that act as if they're broke and act as if they have no credit and get out there and really tap into the creativity that can be accomplished in real estate, it is unbelievable what you can create. And it's everywhere. It's not that this doesn't work in my backyard, or it won't work in, you know, Atlanta, Georgia, or Houston, Texas, or LA. I mean, it works everywhere, and there are always motivated sellers, and there are always eager investors and buyers, and it's just asking. You know, it's like the big mobile home community on the Eastern Shore where we are today. You know, if I hadn't asked the seller and the existing lender if this loan was assumable, I would never have known. And literally 8 years ago, we stepped into a 30-year, it doesn't even exist anymore, a 30-year loan, fixed and amortized, and I was able to assume it. So, yeah, this stuff does exist. And so the first property that you bought, was it a single or a double?
It was a single. It was a single family. My mom became my first tenant, and it had 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, dining room, kitchen, and 2-car garage. It was wonderful. I'm going to show people pictures of it when we have our event. And what was fun about that is that I got to learn home ownership through that process, and I also got to learn how quickly real estate can increase in value. The company I was with, well, actually I wasn't with them when I bought that property, but I joined a company in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they really liked what I had done in that territory. I was a traveling salesman, and they said, listen, we want to move you to Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to pay all your expenses, and if you sell your house, we're even going to pay the closing costs, and if you buy a house when you get to Atlanta, we're going to pay the closing costs on that one. Well, how can I turn that deal down? So Sure enough, I sold that house. Well, the big key is that within less than 2 years, it had gone up 37% in value. So I sold the house with a big fat profit. And it was so awesome because I was able to take that profit, parlay it, move to Atlanta, and buy another property by taking over the existing financing on that house. And I actually went to the real estate agent. I remember this when I drove down to Atlanta because they said, listen, we're going to give you a little bit of time to get a house. So you got the weekend. So I drove down to Atlanta, get with a real estate agent, and she was just a realtor on duty. I drive in, and she's sitting there, and I tell her exactly what I'm looking for. And I said, now listen, I want to buy a house by taking over the existing financing on the property, because that's exactly what I did with this property, and I've got some cash to put down. And she went right to work, and sure enough, I was able to buy my next house by doing the same thing, even using a real estate agent. And I got excited about that.
That's a really interesting point. I mean, I used to be a licensed realtor, but I had never thought of trying to identify properties where the sellers would finance. How did that realtor do that? Or what would be a tool or a way for a realtor today if an investor were to go to a realtor and say, I only want to buy properties, or not buy, but look at properties that have seller financing on them? Do you know?
Well, that's a great question. And, you know, times change. So back in the day, they used to have a thing called NENQ loans, non-escalating, non-qualifying loans. So you paid $45, took over the existing financing, and paid some down payment money, and you were done with that thing. And then you just took over the payments. So if it was a 30-year loan and they were 10 years into that loan, then you've only got 20 years remaining on that loan. It was wonderful. And then in 1982, they passed a thing called the Garn-St. Germain Federal Depository Institutions Act, and they took it away from us. So that's what Congress, you know, we all know they're bought, right? So Congress created this law called the Garn-St. Germain Act, and it gave the banks the right to put the due upon sale clause in the mortgage. So what happened was that after that, everybody scattered and said, oh, we can't do any NQ loans anymore. And I said, really? What makes us think so? And they said, well, there's this law. And I said, I'm going to read the law. And that's exactly what I did. I read the law. And what I found is there's exceptions in the law. So what I found was if you read the exceptions, read the exemptions, then you find that when a person places their property into trust for estate planning purposes, the lender is prohibited, listen to me, prohibited from calling the loan due. So it's so...
No, I did not know that. Are you serious?
Yeah, baby.
Still to this day?
To this day, baby. To this day. And that's how I bought all these properties without going to banks and qualifying for loans. It's
well, I had no idea. To this day, if someone buys a property and they're worried about due on sale, they can put it into any trust, land trust, it doesn't matter.
Well, and funny you should ask. I do have it here. So the kind of trust I talk about is a thing called a land trust. Land trust is very, it's a unique animal. It's a different kind of trust than, there's about 30 different kinds of trust, but this is a unique, different kind of trust. And what this law allows people to do, even with their own house, in fact, that's the reason that the exemption was actually created in the law, so that people could be free to put their own property into trust without fear that the bank could call the loan due. That's exactly the reason they put that exemption in the law. And that's the reason that since 1982, they've never taken it out. They've never altered it. It's always been there in that law, and we've always been able to take advantage of it.
Do you still have the law, the statute, the written word?
I show it in my class. I will be showing it on the 30th.
Wow, I had no idea. I have never, ever heard that the trust, specifically the land trust, would prohibit and be the exception to a due on sale. That is extraordinary.
Now there's some keys to the kingdom. There's some let's say, finesse that we have to create. So let's say that we go to speak to a seller, we look at their property, we determine, okay, this is what you're asking for the property, and then we do a presentation with the seller. So we actually go through a presentation process. Right. Then we get to a final form that we call the cost to sell worksheet. Now, with the cost to sell worksheet, we actually calculate everything that it's going to cost us to sell their property. So what's really powerful about that is that we're educating them all through the process of what the costs are. And then we finally get down to the bottom, and then that's actually your offer price, because we've calculated in that everything that it's going to cost to be able to buy that property, even with hard money financing. We've put every kind of expense you can imagine in there. Then we get to the final number. If they don't like that number, then we say, now, there is another way that we could buy your property. You see this number right up here? This is what we have to spend to do what we call hard money. Now, I would love to give you that money. And all we have to do, and all we can do, is simply take over your existing financing on the property. We take over your existing payments. And you see, your payments times 6, there's going to be this, as opposed to if I give this money to this, this hard money lender, I'm going to have to give them that much. So how about if I add all of this back to the bottom line and actually pay you more for your property? Would that work for you?
That's brilliant.
That's magic, baby. That is absolutely magic. So they get excited about it because now you're paying them more for their property. They see that you actually, there's something in it for them, for you to take over their existing financing. And then you don't even go into the trust conversation. You don't go into any of that until we finally get an agreement. Then once we get an agreement, we're actually going to prepare the paperwork so that they can place their property into their trust. So we're going to actually create a trust. They are actually going to be the beneficiary of that trust. So we've actually got evidence that they placed their property into their trust. And then once that signing ceremony is complete, then they're going to assign and quitclaim their beneficial interest in that trust to another trust. So we actually have a different kind of trust. And in fact, I didn't even plan to talk about this tonight, but you know, I knew we were going to be freewheeling tonight, so I thought I'd get into my study. We do this kind of thing it's called a personal property trust. So a personal property trust is personal property. So what happens, and I said that land trusts are different than the other kind of trust. Well, what happens inside of a land trust is it converts real estate into personal property. So your interests in the land trust become personal property, and that personal property can be held by a personal property trust. So then the seller places their property into their trust. You're going to do all the paperwork and help them with it, and then they're going to assign their beneficial interest to this other trust. How does that sound?
My head is spinning. Absolutely, positively crazy. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box. So Lou, already we're getting into, you know, some pretty serious stuff. And as I said, guys, this is not scripted. Lou does not know where I'm going to go with my next question. So one of the things that always fascinates me is when we look back over 30 years, 40 years, as an investor, not as a coach or a speaker, as an investor. When you look back over 30, 40 years, would you do anything differently than you did? And if so, what would you have done differently?
I would have made a much stronger commitment. Not that I didn't. I went to as much education as I could, but it was even something that, looking back on it, I see now how my students accelerate so fast, and I go, why didn't I do that? When I was a kid, doing this stuff, gosh, I wish there's so many things that somebody else could have helped me bypass. And the coaching and mentoring, I thought I was so smart, to be honest. I thought I was so smart. And I thought I could figure stuff out on my own because I was a scrapper. I was a kid that had nothing. We got nothing. It was, if it's to be, it's up to me. And that was my mindset. So I didn't need anybody's help. That was just kind of how I rolled. And now looking back, I know that if I had gotten a coach or a mentor, I would have been there so much faster. And I help people do that now, and it's just amazing how many mistakes I see people on the brink of making that I go, oh, wait a minute, let's stop that. Hold on, pull back. Let's do this instead of that. And I just wish I had done that, to be honest.
Wow. Thank you. Now, I know you have traveled the country, you've traveled the world. You have students in all 50 states and around the world.
That's right.
What would you say is the top 3 challenges or issues? I don't want to use the word mistake, but the top 3 issues, challenges, obstacles that you see investors struggling with nationally?
That's a great question. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that people tell themselves stories. I say we tell ourselves lies, right? We tell ourselves lies. We don't know it's a lie at the time that we're telling ourselves that, but we tell ourselves untruths simply because we don't know any better. And I know that people come into this game with a certain mindset, with a certain frame that they're living inside of, and they say, okay, to make this work, I have to do this, have that, be that. And the truth is, it's something entirely different than that. And I'll give you an example. So let's say that people are just looking through the looking glass. They're going to come into our world and become a real estate investor. Great. The first thing in their mind that they think they need is money. They think they need the ability to get bank loans, and that means go to banks and qualify for loans. They think they have to have a big pile of money to have a 20% down payment in order to purchase a property, because if they were buying it the traditional way, they would be buying an investment property, which is going to require a down payment, and it's going to require that they have that down payment and the ability to qualify for a loan. So they're absolutely right. But the key is, if they were to buy property the traditional way. Now, here's the distinction. I learned, as we were just talking about, I learned that I didn't have to do things the traditional way. And I also learned that just because other people are doing it that way, that the 97%, just because 97% are doing it that way doesn't mean I have to do it that way. Yes. And I discovered that if you learn the magic words, and I'd say this is another key factor for you, Tammy, if you learn the magic words, you have the ability to create amazing things. And another distinction that a lot of people have is they think things are a certain way, and like a deal is this or a deal is that. And the truth is, deals do not exist. They are created. They are created. So it is skills that allow you to go sit down in a consultative way with a seller, discover what their pain is, and then bring the cure to the table. And so the key is to be able to design and craft a solution that gives them everything that they need and give you everything that you need too. So that's the magic word formula that I talk about.
Wow. Lou, we have a couple questions coming in.
Sure.
So, hi, Tyrone, and welcome. Tyrone says, Lou, how do you work out the situation of insurance that the previous seller had with a new insurance policy on the property?
Great question, Tyrone, because It is a flag that could flag the lender that, hey, this insurance is changing. Why is this insurance changing? So we have our sellers sign certain letters that give us the authority, the authorization to actually handle those matters. Number one, the property is actually going to become a rental property. So what happens is we've got to change the insurance. The old insurance was homeowners. So we have to change that homeowner's insurance to renter's insurance. So therefore, it's not a challenge in most cases. In some cases, the lenders do send letters, they ask questions, they even try to get you to do an assumption, they try to have you pay fees and all kinds of things. It's all nonsense, it's utter nonsense. And so but that doesn't mean they're not going to try, and that doesn't mean you're not going to become afraid when somebody does something like that. It's just that it's not a reality. So the answer is that we get our own policy. We cancel the existing policy. We let the refund go back to the escrow account. The escrow account now is all gearing up to the next time that your insurance policy comes due. There's money in the escrow account to pay that policy. And you just make sure that the lender is named on the new policy as the mortgagee, and you're off to the races. Yep. And that's typically how we handle it. Now, that's number one. Number two is we do have to do a change of address. So there's things to do that you do not necessarily at exactly the same time, because we don't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak, with the lender. So we kind of want to do one thing, then let it ripen, then do another thing until we get everything that we want. And I would just say, take it slow, take it easy. We've got all the forms to do this, so it's not anything you have to worry about.
And you know, Lou, that's a great point, because in a few of the assumptions in seller financing that I've done, that fear is real. You know, oh my God, what if they call the loan due on sale? Not only have I now seen it for years and I've heard it for years, but the reality is this. You and I are talking one-on-one and worrying about all the possibilities. Lenders are enormous organizations. They have thousands and thousands of loans that are coming in. And as long as that loan is current, as long as they're receiving their money, they don't pay attention that it's coming from Lou Brown at 123 Main Street. As long as the policy is active, as long as their database isn't being flagged, as long as they're getting their money, the chances of anything being called due on sale is very, very slim. Same thing with the insurance. You know, I'm literally in the middle of changing insurance policies because nothing that we did, but the insurance agent is no longer serving a particular insurance company. So I had to go out and do searches and, you know, try to figure out, do I stay with the same insurance company but go to another agent, or do I stay with the same agent and work with another company? And these kinds of things happen all the time. Lenders are aware that these things happen all the time. So, you know, we get worried about the small things, and really at the end of the day, as long as it's insured, as long as the bank is receiving their debt service or their mortgage payment, the chances of them actually calling it due for any reason are so slim. Do you agree, Lou? Do you see that to be the norm?
I do. I think it does matter who the lender is and what they're pooling, what their pooling and servicing agreement says. Now, here's the bigger picture. You've laid out the big picture, which you're absolutely right, that they're big organizations and they're not even seeing what's happening if you do it the right way. Now, if you rattle the cage and if you send up what we call red flags, then yeah, they're going to catch it. They're going to ask questions. They're going to send letters. They're going to inquire. And we've seen even some circumstances where they didn't accept the new insurance. It was all because somebody didn't manage themselves correctly. So got to manage the transaction correctly. Now, the key is that when you are working with that seller, that the seller has to be keyed in on, hey, now listen, don't call up the bank and say that I've taken over your loan, because there is this due on sale clause in there. Right. So I mean, I want you to understand, and we have them sign documentation that clearly spells out exactly that we've disclosed to them everything that they need to know about that, and that they have agreed to cooperate. So if they don't, then they've called it on themselves. Now, guess whose loan is getting called if it gets called? It's, of course, their loan. So, you know, I just had I'll tell you a quick story. I had a seller of a property, and I'm just trying to remember right now. So I think we bought it in 2005, and I was just on the phone with him the other day. He said, well, we're ready now. We're ready to buy a house. And I said, that's fabulous. I'm so proud of you. And he says, yeah, the thing is that when they pulled my credit, this loan is still on there. I said, I know. Isn't that great? He said, yeah, but I can't qualify for a loan because this loan is on there. And I said, well, hold on. There's a certain way that you can handle that, but you got to do this in a certain way. If you don't do it this way, you're going to have a problem. So I laid the whole thing out for him. And then I said, now, Melvin, do you remember when we first took this over, do you remember that you were behind a number of months? And he said, yeah. And I said, do you remember what we did? And he says, what do you mean? And I said, well, we reinstated your loan. So we paid all those back payments. And I said, and haven't we faithfully every month paid those payments since then? And he said, yes, you have. And I said, what has that done for your credit? Right. And he says, I got great credit now, Mr. Brown. I got great credit now. And I said, you're welcome. I said, that's what's given you the opportunity to buy a house now. And I said, and it's great that you have the ability to go to banks and qualify for loans, but let me share with you another program. I said, wouldn't it be great if you could actually buy a house with equity in it going in? And he said, how does that work? I said, I got a class.
Let me tell you. Have a seat. I'll even show you.
Exactly right. I want him to win. You know, I want him to buy a house way below market. I want him to come in with equity and have a great retirement, you know, and that's the way that you do it. You don't go pay retail and sign a new 30-year loan that you're going to have to pay off. I've never signed a 30-year loan. I don't even know what that looks like, but I don't want to find out either.
Awesome. All right. Here's another question, Lou, from Frank Logan. Hey, Frank, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Frank says, I am a mastery student in Fortune Builders, and they talked about a trust as a means of asset protection. I am currently trying to find motivated sellers and properties. I've formulated my company 3 months. I've formulated my company 3 months in. It's a pleasure, Lou. I've purchased your program. Recently, my husband and I placed our residence in a land trust. Yay! Yay! After the bank okayed it. Oh, the bank okayed it!
They didn't have a choice.
After the transaction, the bank wanted us to sign a document requiring that we remain beneficiaries. The sole, I'm struggling with this chat box here. Do all states recognize land trusts? And how is this different from a land installment contract?
Okay, fantastic. Well, first of all, congratulations for taking action. Congratulations for starting with your own home. And I always recommend that everybody place everything in their life into trust. I mean everything, and do it one at a time. Have each property in its own trust, and have your vehicles in their own personal property trust, and have your bank account in a personal property trust. So in other words, if anybody looks you up on public record, they don't find anything in your name. Now that's the keys to the kingdom, because ladies and gentlemen, you are in real estate. You are in in a highly visible business. You're in a business that people can sit at home on their computers and they can look you up and they can look your property up. They can look up what it's worth. They can look up if it has a mortgage on it or not. They can figure out if there's equity in the property. They can figure out what other properties you own. I mean, it's a mess in this country. It's so easy for somebody to figure out if you have stuff. So the best way to do this in the game is don't have stuff. Don't have anything in your own name. But the land trusts allow you to put each property in its own trust and to name each trust a different name. So now you can throw people off the scent, so to speak. It's not easy for them to see what you own. It's not easy for them to track all of that because of what I teach you, basically. So the answer to so that's the kind of the overview. Now to answer your question, land trusts are only statutory in 7 states, but they're used in all states. So now what that means is in the absence of land trust statutes, it falls and rests on the trust statutes of that state, of that particular state. So in some states, we take the word land out and just put the word trust. So the assumption out there is that it's a living trust. They don't really read the fine print and find out that it's actually a land trust. So you're able to work within the framework of something that's approved in all 50 states, and that's a thing called trusts. And here's the distinction. It's important to know that trust got here before any other entity, before LLCs, before corporations, before limited partnerships, before any other entity. Trusts came over on the Mayflower, and they had been used over in Europe for thousands, literally thousands of years. So that's the foundation. Actually, to be honest with you, it's the foundation of everything. Trusts is the foundation. Wow. The Queen has all of her assets in a whole variety of trusts. The Kennedy family is reported to have over 4,000 trusts. All the rich and wealthy in this country know about trusts. They use trusts. They understand trusts. It's the absolute best entity you could ever use. It's far better than LLCs, corporations, limited partnerships. And so I'm passionate about this because what I found, and remember back in the day, to go back to that story I was telling you earlier, when they took it away from us in 1982, I read the law. And then I read that trusts is the kind of like the Holy Grail. It's the way out. So I said, okay, so now I got to go learn about trusts. So I started studying trusts, and I went all over the country, and I found some amazing people, and I learned about these trusts, but they were missing paperwork. So I had to create the paperwork to make it work. And to this day, as Tammy said, she bought it 15 years ago, and we still use it to this day. It's still perfect. It's still right. It's still great. And we're able to do this in all 50 states. Did that cover the question, Tammy?
Yeah, I think what I actually did do was combine a couple of questions together, so I apologize for that. That was part of...
What is the distinction between a land trust and a land contract?
Land installment contract.
Land installment contract, big distinction. Because a land trust is actually how you hold title to the property. Right. A land installment contract is something completely different. That's a property that's been sold and the owner carries back financing. So they actually carry back financing with payments, and the payments are installment payments. So let's say that I buy a house from Tammy, and let's say it's $100,000, and then this $100,000 property, she's going to carry back a $50,000 loan, and she's going to carry it back for $1,000 a month for the next 50 months. That would be a land installment contract, and I would not get my deed to that property until she pays me, until I pay her off. So she would keep the deed until I pay her off. And that's an amazing thing. Now, my name for it is agreement for deed, and I've been doing that one for many, 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 many years as well. And I teach that one too. So agreement for deed is a very powerful way that you can do owner financing if the owner won't do subject to. So we've been talking about subject to taking over the existing loan.
Right.
Putting it in trust, but if the owner says, no, I'm not going to do that, you're crazy. I'm not going to let you take over my deed and have this lien against it, then my backup plan is to say, okay, how about this? You keep the deed, and just in case anything happens to you, we're going to place your deed in escrow, and I'll make payments to prove to you that I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do. Yep. And then after I've made those payments for a year, would you give me the deed then? And you see, it's just a process of negotiation at that point. But anytime I can get owner financing, I want that, baby. That's the keys to the kingdom, because think about it. Just if you paid those points, we were talking about earlier, the points, the origination fees, look at how much money that is. Just look at how much money that is on one closing statement.
I just missed closing the day before we left to go down to Florida. And I did not know until literally 24 hours prior, when I got the HUD one, I had to bring an extra $16,000. And you know, it's so frustrating. It's aggravating, and of course this was traditional, you know, because it was a refi on an apartment building, but it doesn't have to be that way. And you know, you've said a couple things that are so important, and I wanted to touch on. And it's all about the communication. You know, is it seller financing, or are we sitting down and showing a homeowner how that we can support them in getting to wherever it is that they want to go with an agreement for deed? You know, and a lot of times as we're learning this process, we don't realize that we know what we know, but that sellers don't know what we know. And sometimes the language or the wording that we're using that we hear so randomly in the industry, you know, that we're going to take over. I mean, if you walk up to a seller that has never heard, you know, subject to, and I say, you know, Lou, I'm an investor, and you know, of course, that throws up a flag right there. And you know, I want to buy your property, but I'm going to buy it MAO, and you know, the ARV is this, and you know, I'm going to take it over subject to, and they're like, whoa, time out. Like, no, you're not. And you know, behavior never lies, and how we behave in front of a seller. And I loved what you said about presentation. You know, we get ready to do a presentation, you know, to the seller, and share with them the opportunity, and we share with them how we can change their lives, how we can make a difference in them being able to get to where it is that they want to get to, finding out what their motivation is, staying focused on that, and you know, really bringing it down to layman's terms, because they don't know what seller finance is. They don't know what a subject to is. They don't know what a sandwich lease is. They don't know, you know, what a land installment contract is. That's not part of their vocabulary. And so I've noticed that you've shared a lot about how you talk with sellers, which is what I talk about a lot at the RIA. You know, it's not always what you say, but it's how you say it and how you phrase it and how you frame it. And so I really, really appreciate you talking about the different ways that you meet with sellers. And so Renee asked a question. She says, Lou.
Let me add something to what you just shared, Ed, because I think it's valuable to everybody. You are so right that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you mentioned before that, you know, a real estate investor. We never say that. We never say we're real estate investors. We say we're certified affordable housing providers.
Oh, perfect.
And it is so powerful. It is a game changer, and I'm going to teach people on the 30th when I'm there. I'm going to teach them how to change that conversation and how to actually sit down with a seller, make the presentation, and tell them about what you're going to do with their home. You see, a lot of investors look at the surgical transaction of taking someone's house away from them, slicing it away from them, and they treat it like a surgeon would. And that's so totally wrong. This is a people business. You have to learn how to talk to people. You have to be in their space. You have to feel what they're feeling. You have to know what they're seeing. And so I talk to them about their house, and I say, oh, did you raise your kids here? And so how many kids did you have? And, oh, this has been great. And you've lived here so long. Why are you moving? Oh, this is such a wonderful house. And even if the place is hoarder heaven, but you got to talk to people where they're at. And one of the things that we do is actually share with them what we're going to do with their house. And so we explain to them that we're certified affordable housing providers, and we have a program called the Path to Home Ownership, where we help deserving families, regardless of their credit or financial background, to end up with ownership of a property. And we work with sellers like you and houses like this to be able to solve their problems and also to work with you to solve your problems. How does that sound? Wow. And they just love it. They just love it because you've gotten on the emotional side of their sale of their property, because you don't realize, I mean, their dog ran around in the backyard, and died, and it's buried over by the fence. And, they remember all these historical things about their life in that house. And you're just somebody, taking it away from them. So got to be careful about what you say and how you say it.
Absolutely. Great point. Because it is a people business. We are marketers. We must be able to understand that we're dealing with people's lives. And regardless of where they're moving or regardless of why they're selling, at the end of the day, it is somebody's home. And Renee has a really great question, Lou. She said, how do you buy a house that has equity built into it? How do you find them? How do you buy a house that's got equity, that's not upside down, needing a short sale?
Well, Renee, that's a great question. Now, some people just come to market and they just underprice their houses. Sometimes they do it on purpose so they can get rid of the property, get rid of it fast. They know it's worth this, but they're just going to go ahead and put it on the market for that. So that's instant equity. And of course, those go very fast because everybody's watching for that one. So what typically happens, though, is that people do one of two things. They either test the market themselves as a for sale by owner just to see if they can save that real estate commission. That's really their goal, is to save that real estate commission. And in your area, that's a significant amount of money for a lot of these houses. $200,000-$300,000 house. I mean, all of a sudden, that's serious money. The second thing is once they have kind of made that decision, then they're just looking for their exit strategy. Now, in their mind, and this is why I say we tell ourselves lies, in their mind, they have, and they're expecting that you're going to go to the bank, qualify for a loan, just like they did when they bought the house, and you're going to pay off their loan, and they're done with it. So there's two kinds of equity. There's equity that exists, and there's equity that's created. So what we do through our presentation process is we actually go through what it costs to sell a property, and we, along the way, are creating equity. Now, if they sell me the house at that bottom line number, then I've just made all of that equity. Now you say, well, wait a minute, Lou, how did you make equity? Because those are real costs. And that's absolutely true. These are real, honest to goodness costs that it takes to get a property sold. Now, here's the keys to the kingdom. Listen closely. If everybody's listening. So the key is to already have a buyer, already have them pre-qualified, already know how much down payment money they have, already know how much they can afford on a monthly basis. Now we can customize a buy for that buyer. I can go sit down with Mrs. Jones, and I can go through my cost to sell worksheet because I already know I have a buyer. So all of these expenses, whatever we agree to, all of that is now my profit because my buyer is qualified up here at retail. And to be honest with you, it's actually retail plus because we're going to be the bank for our new buyer. So when we're the new bank, or when we're the bank, we get to set the price. And our seller ends up selling at some number between there and there, and we make that spread on the deal. So that is equity. And like I say, equity is most of the time created. It doesn't exist. Now, another way that we create equity is to purchase a property that has need of repairs. It needs something, lots of things done to it. And when we do certain things to it, we create that equity. So we buy it today at this price because it's just worth that because of its condition. We do these things, and now we've created equity there. I hope that made sense to you.
That was a fantastic explanation. That's kind of similar to when I talk about, you know, buying a house. You're not just creating wealth when you buy the house. There's so many multiple streams of income. You have the tax benefits. You have the equity that you're creating. You have the yearly raise that you get when you increase the rents. You have the resident that is paying down your mortgage every single, you know, month and every single year for you. And not to forget, you know, the incredible appreciation. So, you know, just from one investment, one transaction, the multiple streams of income that can be created, you know, just like you're talking about equity, you know, there's multiple ways that we can create equity. So really great response there.
Just no other business like this one, period. I listen to people talk about wholesaling, and I say, please wholesale your properties to me because I got something else I can do with them. And I'm not putting down wholesalers because I buy about 2 properties a month from wholesalers. I love wholesalers, bring them all. But I try to get them to come to my class because I'm going, you don't know how much money you're leaving on the table. I mean, thank you very much, but really, if you learn, there's a future with that. And so what you were just describing is kind of what we call the ideal investment, right? Income, depreciation, equity buildup, appreciation, and leverage. Where else do you get those 5 things and the safety?
Nowhere. I mean, Lou, you have been around a lot longer than I have, and if you've never seen it anywhere else other than real estate, I know I'm not going to find it.
No, it don't exist. And I just got an article. I'll share this story. I just got an article from the managing director of Daimler-Benz, Mercedes-Benz parent company. And he made a presentation about exactly what's going on in the economy right now. And he said, look, all automobile companies are actually going to go out of business. They're going to end up bankrupt. Now, this is the guy, this is Mercedes is talking here. And he
recently?
said,
he's saying
like,
this in a recent.
I'm going to send you the article. You're going to love it. I just read it 2 days ago. And it's a mind-blowing article. I sent it to all my platinum students, everything, because this is a game changer for people to really read what's going on. And what is fascinating is that he said that the software companies are going to rule the world. He was talking specifically about Google, Apple, Tesla, and he said, listen, what's going to happen is they are creating cars that are driverless. And he said now people can actually, they don't have to live close to their work anymore. They can live anywhere they want to because they can do work while they commute. They don't even have to worry about talking to a driver. And he said, this is going to change everything. He said, people are not going to buy cars anymore. They're just going to push a button. This driverless car is going to come up. You're going to get in it and you're going to go away. And I listened and I read this whole article, and it had vision after vision after vision of what's going on in our economy right now. And I was fascinated, and I said, you know what? Houses are still here, baby. They're not doing anything to houses. They're not changing how. If they change houses in any way, it's simply to put more technology in them. But they still got bedrooms. They still got bathrooms. They still got doors and windows. It's a beautiful thing. And I said,
Lou, it's hard to fathom that could even be a possibility. But I know there is that going on. I'm in a rental car right now. It's a 2017. And the technology in this rental car is tripping me out. I mean, it's got this screen, and this is nothing spectacular. It's just a Mazda, but the screen comes up and down. There's knobs everywhere. But in my side mirror, it literally knows by sensor when a vehicle is coming into my blind spot, and it blinks and chirps, and sure enough, there's the vehicle, and then it stays with the vehicle until it hits a specific point on the vehicle, regardless of the speed. So I am witnessing, and I'm probably very naive and jaded, and I'm sure people are probably laughing on the webinar, oh my God, Tammy, that's been around for so long. But you're absolutely right. What is happening with technology, not just in vehicles, but it's everywhere. The fact that I can leave my home, get in my car with nothing other than my smartphone. And I can check email, I can check phone, I can check text, I can scan a document, I can convert it into a PDF, I can take photos. Like, I don't really need anything more than just my laptop and my phone and maybe a portable printer. And as an investor, I'm in business. I don't need an office. I mean, I can do everything that I need to do with 3 pieces of technology, maybe some software platforms, but it is mind-blowing what we can do today. Have car, will travel, and you're right, houses, apartment buildings, you know, office buildings, storage facilities, assisted living, they're not going anywhere. Technology and software cannot change the way that a house is bought or sold or financed. Can't do it.
And here's another encouraging thing. You're absolutely right about that. In fact, this thing, it changed my life, baby. This smartphone. Oh, thank you, God, for the smartphone. I'm telling you, it changed my life. And they're really smart too. I'll tell you, because
yeah, they are.
I used to have to go into the office, and I felt so trapped there. And you know, it's like I've got all these things and all these people coming at me, and then I realized, wait a minute, everything that I'm doing at the office, I can do at home. So the office can still be in an office, and it can still do what it does, and I can do everything I want to do from home. And that's exactly what I do to this day. I let them do what they do at the office, because we got a lot of properties, and we've got a great fabulous business, and I don't have to be there. I discovered I just don't have to be there, and I have meetings by phone. So this is where we're headed. Now, the other thing that's encouraging about real estate is that in this article they were talking about how age is playing a factor, that and he lays it out in the article, but basically I'm trying to remember what he said. He said 4 years ago, the average age of death was 79 years old, and now it's 80. And they said that every 3 months, every year now, we're adding 3 months to the lifespan. And then he said, by the time we get to 2027, 2036, I read so many statistics, 2036, I believe it is, then it's going to go 1 year at a time. Literally, if you live another year, it's going to add another year. If you live another year, it's going to add another year. And he was talking about how doctors are going out of business too, because now with this teledoc thing, you can actually show the doctor over the screen like we're doing right now. You can show them your stuff and what's wrong, and they can actually diagnose you over the screen. And then they can have you come in if necessary. But basically, you can go to any test that's close by. You can get your blood tests done. It's just amazing what's going on. And that's going to increase the diagnosis too. Instead of, you're going to get better diagnoses and everything. So that's kind of what's coming down the pike. And the good news is everybody needs real estate, baby.
Yeah. Wow.
Or housing, even more important, not just real estate, they need housing.
Yeah, it's 9:13, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. This has been so much fun. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
I cannot wait until September the 30th when we get to spend an entire day with you. And you just have so much experience and so much incredible knowledge. Even tonight, I mean, I still learn, and it just blows my mind. I will never ripe. I will always stay green so that I can always grow and be open to that. And Frank says, Lou, I have some land in St. Mary's County, Maryland, that I own free and clear. And I understand from you that I should probably establish a trust in it. Is that correct?
What happens is you actually create the trust, and then you deed the property from your name into the trust name. You record that at the county courthouse, and now it's not in your name anymore, it's in the trust name. Now let me tell you a really big reason for this. Trusts avoid probate. Not an LLC, not a corporation, not a limited partnership, and certainly not keeping it in your own name. So the process of probate is how the asset is passed to your heirs without courts, without judges, without attorneys, without cost, without delay, all the things that come with typical death and wills. Wills guarantee probate. No will guarantees probate. Trust, no probate necessary. And the reason is inside the trust, you've already identified who you want to get it. So we don't need any attorneys, judges, delays, or anything else, because you already said to your trustee, let's say that Tammy is my trustee. And I say, Tammy, here's the paperwork, and I've got this land, and here's the legal description. It's right here in the trust. I'm going to be the primary beneficiary until I die. At my death, Tammy, I want you to pass this on to my wife. And if she wants to take it out of the trust, she can do that. If she wants to leave it in the trust, she can do that. If she wants to replace you as the trustee, she can do that. She'll have all the power at my death. You see, you can do things like that inside a trust. And it's just the most powerful way that you can hold title to property, because you're going to get that extra bonus benefit of probate avoidance.
So cool.
It's a beautiful thing.
I think this is more of a comment than a question. Bruce says, a missed payment rescinds a land installment contract. So some states have added consumer protection aspects to land installment contracts.
I would agree with that. It really does depend on the state that you're in as to what the rules are. And of course, what the United States of America is it's 50 countries. It's 50 countries under a brand, basically. And certain things have been assigned to the federal government for them to handle, but each state gets to make its own rules. It's a sovereign little piece of property, or a big piece of property, as the case may be. And so inside that is those laws, and you do need to be familiar with them. Now, what's important for you to know is that I've been doing this now for 40 years, buying, selling, and holding property, and what I've discovered is that many, many, many things can be resolved before you ever go to court. And so I teach my clients to be really careful about what they do and how they do it. And you can avoid big issues if you just do things a certain way. So the plan is that you're not going to have that problem. But if you do have that problem, I promise you it's going to be a small percentage of all the deals that you do.
Wow. Bruce also asked, if I am also an agent or a broker, I cannot accept a net commission. So as an investor, that concept of equity is an actual net commission, quote unquote. How
No.
do I avoid this so I don't go before the commission or the board of realtors?
Bruce, that's a great question. So here's the distinction you want to understand. If you match a buyer to a seller and you're not a principal in that transaction, then you're absolutely subject to the real estate commission. However, if you buy a property from a seller into your trust and you control that trust, and now you sell that property to your buyer, you're a principal in that transaction. You are not subject to the real estate commission laws. So you want to make that distinction in your mind that, am I a party to this transaction? Am I an owner in this transaction? If you are, then you don't have anything to worry about.
Well, and isn't it also true, Lou? I mean, I was a realtor at one time. I'm not anymore. And, you know, investors would get so worked up over realtor, not realtor, what hat, right, am I wearing? And, you know, basically it's such a simple thing as it's just a disclosure. You know, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I just need to let you know I am a licensed agent. I am a licensed realtor. And they're like, oh, okay. And you put that in your documents. But just because you have a title, you know, like a doctor, just because a doctor has an MD doesn't mean he can't, you know, live life. Just because we're licensed as realtors doesn't mean that we're exempt from buying a property. We just have to do it, as you said, Lou, the right way. We just simply need to put in writing and verbally make a disclosure that, hey, I just need to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I am a licensed agent, but as I am going to be acquiring your home and we're going to be working together, I am not going to be acting as an agent, so therefore there isn't going to be a listing agreement, there isn't going to be a buyer agency, you know, there is not going to be a commission that would be due. It will be my company or myself acting as the principal, acting as the buyer. I just want to let you know, though, that I am a licensed agent. Anything you could add to that?
I can, and in fact, Bruce, you've kind of got an extra bonus, that the fact that you are licensed. I love to teach my clients who are real estate agents and they want to be real estate investors as well. I say, listen, you go in on that listing and you tell the seller, I've got good news for you. Your house is sold. Now, I've got two different paths I can take you down. We can put this on the market and see what the market bears, or I can go ahead and make you a presentation today. And if you like the numbers, we'll actually buy your house today. Which would you like to hear first? so then, well, if you could buy my house, I want to hear about that. So then you go into the presentation that I teach you about how to actually come up with a number. Now you get to the final number and they don't like that number, or you can't use one of my 37 different ways to structure the transaction. That's okay. Then we say, all right, let's try the market, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Let's try the market and see what the market says. Let's go ahead and put it out there for the amount that you say it's worth. And I've got some evidence that you're right about that. So we're going to put it on the market for $300,000 and see who shows up. And if somebody shows up, great, you got your real estate commission and your sellers are happy as a lark. But anytime during that time, hopefully you got a 6-month listing, anytime during that period that they say, Uncle, I'm done with this thing, your offer is still good. So you can still buy the property. It's such a cool thing.
Yeah, great point. So Lou, Tyrone said, great answers, Lou, on buying homes with equity. However, in Maryland, you have to be careful with the PIFA law when you're buying from an owner that is in foreclosure. Lou, I know you know a lot about Maryland. I know you've been up here before. It's a very lengthy subject to even get into about PIFA. But could you comment briefly on Tyrone's?
Well, Tyrone is absolutely right. You do have to be careful about that. And the key is the property in foreclosure. And so we kind of approach our business differently. I've identified about 18 different markets that you can go after. So let's say that within 5 miles of where you live, there's a uh, a community, and it is a community, right? And inside that community, there's people that are dying. There's people that are being transferred. There's people that are getting divorced. There's people that are in foreclosure. There's people that are buying houses. There's all kinds of things going on within that community. So what I do is teach you to focus on that community. Focus on that community, not the whole metro area. And so we drill down in that community, and we actually, most of my marketing is not to distressed sellers. My marketing is to out of town, out of state owners. My marketing is to high equity owners. I'm looking for a different kind of market. I'm looking for probate properties. I'm looking for things that other people aren't looking for. So everybody else is chasing those foreclosure properties. I'm not. In fact, I don't want those people stressed and distressed, right? If they come to me as a natural course of my business and they do happen to come to my website, fill out my questionnaire, I find out they got that problem, then we're going to go in with the right hat on. Now, what you can do is you can affiliate with a nonprofit organization. There's many housing nonprofits that actually offer counseling, and you could become a counselor for them. So you can go in with that hat on. And actually, if you're able to help the people, you're done. You don't buy that house. But if that's not going to work for them, then you get to take that hat off and put on another hat, because you already offered them a solution that they turned down. So you can look at the distinctions of the opportunity. And you basically, we always carefully disclose and get a lot of documents signed. So we're very, very careful about what we are opening ourselves up to and the crazies that are out there. Because let's face it, human beings are going to be human, and you're not going to do anything about that. It's the law of averages, and it is what it is. And if you're going to be successful in this business, you're going to run into some crazies. So what you got to do is protect yourself. Number one, I've already taught you this tonight. You never have anything in your own name. You never have anything that somebody else can get their paws on. You never can have anything where somebody can look you up on public record and find out you own a bunch of stuff, right? And that's the first and foremost step in the process. So that if anybody wants to take a run at you, you say, well, have at it, baby, because you're not going to get very much. And, you know, because you, and this is something that I teach, and it's Albert Einstein had a wonderful saying. He said, intellectuals solve problems, geniuses prevent them. So
Correct.
We think ahead and we look at what is it that I could be getting myself into, and let's prevent that problem before it occurs. Great question.
And, you know, Lou, it's like we were saying earlier, it's knowing, you know, all of the different variables, because just like the PIFA law in Maryland, you know, you've got the Texas law, the Frank Dodd Act. I mean, there's all these different laws in each state, but there's also exceptions, like you were saying about the law and the due on sale. In Maryland, if it is non-owner occupied, if it is an investor property, you know, PIFA doesn't apply. So as long as you know what the variables are and what the exceptions are, then there's no reason to get all worked up about the law, you know, and real estate is a risk. And if one particular property is something that you're worried about, you know what, so what, next? We move on, you know, to the next one, and we keep moving. But before we get to the very, very end of 90 minutes here, I think these have been some really great questions. I had no idea we were going to go that way, and to trust, that's been absolutely awesome. And, you know, I learned some new things, but I know that you, in the last several years, have been so passionate about serving on a national level and building community with the crisis and the financial meltdown in our industry and what happened with home ownership. And, I mean, the numbers are so staggering. You know, home ownership is at a historical all-time low. There's so much fear in our country. They strong words. I mean, they hate banks. You know, they will never go to another bank.
Yay.
But being able, you know, to own their own home and know that it is that American dream, that, you know, it is theirs, and that they can enjoy it, for them, their family, to leave a legacy. And I know you've created this extraordinary program and certification that I cannot wait to be a part of. We've talked about that when you come up, that, you know, we're going to sit down and have lunch. And we spent a couple hours on the phone, you know, a month ago, and you were sharing me about it. And I mean, I'm literally salivating. You know how much I am about community and how big I am on building community and being able to serve community and make a difference. And, you know, it doesn't have to be done a traditional way. And if you take that mold off of that box and get out of that box of what is traditional, and I'll take that top off and say, there's so many amazing ways and things that I can do as a real estate investor if I just give myself permission to be welcome and open to all that is and available to me creatively. Will you please talk about your extraordinary program and how many families and people you are helping right now?
Well, Tammy, one of the things that I discovered, you know, of course, I've been at this game for 40 years, so there's a lot of ahas that I've had over the years. And I'm a introspective, retrospective type person. And when I was a kid, I loved to take things apart and see how they work and fix them and all that kind of thing. And I really felt that there was something in my business that was broken. And so I was enjoying very good success in buying and selling and holding property. But I always realized that my problem did not come from buying the property. My problem came from selling the property, and it never quite ended up the way I thought it was going to be. And it always tended to cost more and take longer than I thought it was going to take, and I always had less profit than I really thought I was going to get. And I said, you know what? And this is the cause. Back in 2008, when everything crashed and burned, and it did, by the way, it really did. We had a number of properties. We had bought them right. We had bought them cheap. We fixed them up. We did everything right, and we put them on the market. We got contracts, and the contracts kept falling through. Contracts kept falling through. Contracts kept falling through. And I said, what's wrong with this picture? I said, what's wrong with this picture is we don't have a buyer. That I went into this transaction not knowing who I was building this house for, not knowing who I was rehabbing this house for, painting, doing countertops, choosing faucets, all the nonsense. And I realized, wait a minute, if I had a buyer that loved what I was doing, that actually wanted to earn credits towards the purchase of the home for them picking those things out and maybe even doing the work, then I would have a fantastic opportunity. So that's exactly what we started doing in 2009, is we switched the business, we turned it on its head, and we said, let's go find the buyers. Let's market to find these buyers. We're going to hone this thing down. We're going to test it. We're going to find where these buyers are, and they're going to willingly show up in our world. They're going to fill out our questionnaire. They're going to tell us exactly who they are, where they're from, how much they make. They're going to tell us how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where they want to live. They're going to tell us everything so that we can consultatively find out exactly who they are, what their situation is, and then customize a buy for those people. Well,
so you totally twisted the thought process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the other side. And here's the key. When they come in, the first thing we want to do is get an application. Well, what we've done in the past is we don't get paid for all of our time. Now we get paid for our time. They actually pay to apply for our program. So we have a program. It's called the Path to Homeownership. And I turn on, you know, when people become, certified affordable housing providers, then it's reversed. There it is. Certified.
Oh, that side.
And what happens is now you're in the marketplace with a different message. You're not talking about being a real estate investor and taking little old ladies' equity in homes and all of that nonsense. It's a whole different world. So our message is one of service, that we want to serve people. We want to serve sellers. We want to serve buyers. We want to make it, and serve lenders too, by the way, private money, IRAs, 401ks, they need to be served too. All of us work together to make this amazing machine. And what happens is that they join the path to home ownership. So when they join, the first thing we do is we pull their credit. When we look at their credit, we discover, uh-oh, there's problems there. In fact, most of the time, they'll actually tell you that they already have problems. Then we put them into a credit restoration program, and I'll be talking about that when I come up. And so then when they come into the credit restoration program, I call that our holding tank. So now they're sitting in the holding tank waiting for us to go find the house for them, which now you know exactly what to look for, because you know what their credit is, and you know how long it's going to take if they act right, if they do what they're supposed to do. You know how quickly you're going to make your big money. But in the meantime, we monetize the front end of the game. So when those people are coming in, we're actually getting paid for them to come into our world. And we get paid again with their down payment money when they move into the home. And we get paid again when their credit gets good enough to be able to, what I call pop the top. When they can pop the top and actually qualify for a bank loan, we get paid again. So we get paid. We get paid when they come into our world. We get paid when they move in. We get paid monthly. Then we get paid again when they pay us off. And what happens, you make about 30% more profit on every transaction than you would have made if you did a traditional sale. So now you can see you don't have to do a lot of transactions. You just do it this way, and you make so much more money. And that's
Lou, you know as well as I, we could go till 2 a.m. because I can't get enough. And when I'm with you, it's just no holds barred, baby. You know, I adore it. So, but I got to be respectful of everybody's time. And so please, please, please mark your calendars right now. September the 30th, doors open at 8:30 for registration. We will begin promptly at 9 a.m. Lou is flying up from Atlanta for that special day. It will be a full day workshop. We will have breaks. We will have lunch. You will have plenty of time to network. You will have plenty of time to ask your questions. And it is going to be at the Residence Inn, Marriott in Bethesda. Please check your emails. Check meetup.com and get registered right away. There is no cost to attend this event. You know how I am and how our team is at Capital City RIA. And Lou is just as pumped up as we are.
What Tammy is just now telling you, when I come in to do an all day at other cities, they charge $199 for that. Wow. And so she is really giving you an amazing gift. You're not aware, but and you know, sometimes people get spoiled when they don't pay for anything. But, you know, they come in late, they leave early, they don't appreciate what they're really getting. And you just got to understand that what she's giving you is a gift, and it might as well have a bow on it. This is an amazing thing. I didn't even know this until just now when she said she's doing it for free. Oh my gosh. Now you realize she's paying for the room, she's paying for the meal. That's crazy. But she does that for her people, and I've learned that about Tammy. She really cares. She really cares that you guys get what you came for. You know, we all have our preconceived notions of what we want when we come in, and sometimes it's not what we thought we were going to get. And she, you know, she vetted me like nobody's ever vetted me before, and she said, okay, I'm excited about you coming, and she checked everything out before she even talked to me. So it's a gift. And you guys have an amazing mentor in Tammy, amazing leader on what she does for you guys. You know, just get with her and stick with her. You're gonna do great.
Wonderful. Well, Lou, I am glad you're no longer in the dark, and I'm glad the power is back on. I
Me too.
just read that there was a magnitude 7 earthquake that hit Mexico.
See.
Hundreds of people are no longer with us. That other outrageous hurricane, they said that the most hurricanes we've ever had in a short period of time already this summer. There's a lot of craziness and uncertainty going on, and you know, if we, as blessed as we are, and the awesomeness that we have in our lives, you know, please just always keep in thought and prayer all of those that are struggling throughout the world right now, all of our friends and our families still in Florida that are affected, and the people that have lost their homes. And you know, just don't forget in all that you're doing that there's so much adversity going on in the world. And Lou, I cannot wait for September the 30th. One of the questions is, if someone can't be there for the 30th, what do they do? And you know, it's a special occasion, and it's very difficult to get on Lou's calendar. I don't know, you know, what you've got going on, but if you really have the opportunity to get that day off or to make it a priority, I highly, highly recommend it. I don't know when we're going to be able to get back on his calendar again. He's got a lot coming up with the affordable housing program and all that he's doing, and I can guarantee you from the bottom of my heart that it will be one of the most phenomenal, content-based, no fluff, no BS, right? Because we don't play that. And it is not a pitch fest. This is education, education, education. I already told Lou. And he knows. And he knows what's important to me. He knows what gets my buttons triggered. And, you know, this is why I vet and why I am so fanatical about who we bring into Capital City RIA. So it is an amazing day, September 30th. Lou, I don't know, do you have any other ideas or suggestions if someone's not able to make it on September 30th?
You know, there's always ways that we can follow up with one another, and webinars and different things. And we've got trainings that Tammy's aware of. So you can always reach out to Tammy and say, you know, when's Lou's next upcoming training? And she can plug us in together and be more than happy to serve you in any way I can. We do have some remarkable things that you're going to learn that day, really, you know, just like we've done tonight, things that you've never heard before, things that you've never imagined that was possible. Like I say, I take things apart and I figure out what's not working, and I figure out where the profits are and how we can make more on each transaction. So I'm going to be teaching a lot of that while we're together, and the marketing and what marketing we do to bring in our customers and how we do that. You're going to learn all that. You're going to come equipped with your questions. I got lots of answers after 40 years of being in this business, so you can't stump me, baby. I just do this stuff all the time, and I have, you know, a wonderful business of my own. So we don't just talk to talk, we walk to walk, and we do this every day. So when you're thinking about your future and what you're trying to accomplish with being in this business, you know, one of the things is probably freedom. And you're really looking to have a safety net that you don't have to worry about Social Security, or if your pension fund is going to go out of business, which a lot of them do. You know, you really need to create, as I've learned, you really need to create your own Social Security program. And mine revolves around having at least 20 free and clear houses that pump out money on a monthly basis so that you can have an amazing life. And that's what I'll be teaching you while we're together.
And you know what, Lou, even if it's 10, even if it is 10 houses and you imagine 2 a year, that's nothing. Imagine four houses a year, 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years is all it takes with that focus and that dedication to create true wealth and financial freedom. And I know that's what we're going to be talking about. I have got to be respectful of everybody's time, because you know we could keep going. This is recorded, although we're live right now. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everybody that has been here on the calls with us. Renee, Rosalind, Valerie, Tyrone, and on and on and on. All of you that are here. I wish I could go through everybody's name, but it would take me probably an hour to do that. And we so look forward to seeing you guys on September the 30th. go to meetup.com, Capital City RIA, and get registered now. It is going to be limited seating, and I know once we, hit capacity and have to provide a head count, we won't be able, to keep those seats open. And September the 30th, also go to capitalcityria.com and make sure you get registered. But Lou, I so adore you. I can't thank you enough for being open to just having a total no holds barred, no script, no nothing, just a fireside chat with you and I. I so adore you. I can't wait to get my hug on the 30th, and I know that you will wow them as you always do me. And if there's any final remarks that you'd like to make, please feel free. But I want to thank everybody again for the time away from your family, from your children, from your jobs, to be here with me. It really means the world to me. Love you so much, and I cannot wait to see everybody on September the 30th. But also, don't forget, our main monthly RIA meeting is on Wednesday night, September 27th. We have a very special panel of local real estate investors just like you that I've hand-selected, who are doing amazing things in our community, and they're going to be on the panel, and we're going to be interviewing them and talking to them about what they did, how they've done it, challenges that they've faced, and so on and so forth. So all of this is on Meetup. Look forward to seeing everybody. Lou, mwah, if there's anything in closing you'd like to share, but thank you so, so much.
Well, I look forward to meeting every one of you. I have some great clients already in Maryland, D.C., Virginia area that are just tearing it up, and I want to include you in that and come see exactly what we're up to so that you can duplicate it the way that we're really laying this out and playing this on that Saturday. Is that we're going to lay it all out for you so that you can take away from it what you can actually apply and do it in your own community, close to home, instead of having to do the entire metro area. How about let's build a business within 5 miles of where you live? And that's
baby.
Yeah, baby, that's a good thing. See you then.
All right, Lou. Mwah. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. See you on the 30th.
Good night, everybody.